All right, and next topic of our episode 3 of today's Fundamentals of Skateboard Judging for park discipline is judging different event formats, full runs, and time until the fall runs. So, how does this work, guys? Can you explain our viewers what's the difference and what do you look for when judging these two formats? Shari, you want to take it?
Sure. So this is a tricky thing when you're judging, and obviously practice. With practice, you get better, but it's hard because you've got like skating's different to other sports where it's all dependent on how they perform on the day. So you might have a skater who's nailing their runs perfectly in all their practice, and they get to the actual event and they come off a trick or something like that. So you get a variety of skaters presented to you in to judge, but also on the day or in the event, you get skaters that finish their run with 10 seconds to spare, or you get a skater who does a complete run, or you get a skater who falls right at the end, or you get a skater that falls halfway through their run. So you're judging not only the skill level and the flow and the tricks and the runs and the lines, but you also got to think, okay, where does that impact the results in terms of if they've come off their board and when and what that looks like. So for me, if a skater finishes, before time, it's the athlete's job to make the most of their time. If they've got 45 seconds for a run, that skater's going to want to do as much as they can in 45 seconds. So if they're finishing at 40 seconds, but they haven't come off their board, they're nailed every trick and they just have this 5 seconds spare at the end. Well, that's up to them. If they think they've done enough, okay, and maximize that 40 seconds, well, then that might be enough to get them an epic score. So you're not scoring them less or marking them down or anything because they've finish 5 seconds before the end of their run. You're judging what you see. You can only judge what's in front of your face. You can't, preempt what they would have done in that 5 seconds or go, oh, well, they didn't maximize that 5 seconds, because they might still have a more epic run than someone that uses the whole 45 seconds. Coming off your board or stacking a trick is a different story. If you, stuff up a trick halfway through your run, that's going to dramatically impact your score because you're not finishing your run. You might have only got 5 tricks down. You might have only got half your line done. You can still get a really awesome score from, a lot of skaters, and this happens a lot, have this epic run and then they try something really gnarly right at the end and they stuff up that last trick, like it could be with 2 seconds to spare. So you've got to judge what's in front of you, and that's why you've got your notes, you've written out what they've done in their run, and, it might be this gnarly epic run for 43 seconds and, the last 2 seconds they stuff something up. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't impact their score, but you've given them a score, and then let's say the next run they do exactly the same run, but they nail that trick right at the end. Well, then they're going to get a little bit higher, aren't they, than the last score? Not dramatically. They're not going to get an extra 20 points. So you should be in the same realm. If they've added one more trick to the end and they've done a nice flowing full run, it's gonna be a little bit better. And we see that, and we saw that at Tokyo as well.
What about the in the event that 30 seconds into their run they're trying something and they miss pump or something, and then they get what's supposed to be a 540 ends up being a backside disaster, and then they're just trying to hold on until the end of time, until the end of the run. 20 seconds of that run doesn't really matter. They're on their board still, but they're not doing anything.
Yeah. And I guess that's why we have multiple runs. We're not just judging skateboarding with here's one run. Oh, that's it. Move on to the next skater. We skateboarding, in all disciplines, get multiple opportunities, because we know it's one of those sports that it's not like diving or swimming or whatever. And once, you can swim a certain pace and you every time you swim, you're going to get roughly around that time. Like skateboarding, you could have a day where you're just nailing everything and you can have a day where you're off. So, it's different to other sports, and we don't want to change what skateboarding's about. So, and that's what makes it risky. Yeah.
I think to add on that, it also depends on the type of the park, of the ball, of the shape, and how some people go faster than some other. Some people are done 5 seconds before their run, and that's it. They don't need to add anything. That was a complete run, and they go out and they go on the platform and there's still 3 seconds to go, but that's fine.
Sometimes less is still more, right?
And it has it has a lot to do with how we were talking about linking tricks. You know, if you're on one side of the park and you see way over there, you can do a 540. The time in between's 5 seconds, and everyone's just like, and you're just looking for the 540 way over on the other side of the course. You're wasting time.
Hmm.
So it has a lot to do with linking tricks as well. So if you end up doing everything you set out to do, and you're at 40 seconds instead of 45, who cares? You know,
Yeah.
you did what you needed to do.
Important message that you guys are saying, and it basically provides the answer to the many questions that people ask. You don't deduct some point evaluation by counting the time that people missed. Like you just said, sometimes 40 seconds could be enough. And the only time, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that you might look on the missed time is when you're comparing performances that are very similar to each other with basically the same features, like someone fell about the
Mhm.
same time. And that's
Yeah.
when it kind of like becomes one of the points that you look into. But overall, you don't deduct points when you look at the time. You judge the skating that has been done in front of you, right?
Yeah, and is also the quantity versus quality thing, you know.
Mhm.
Someone can win a contest in 45 seconds with 7 tricks, where the second one has done 10 tricks, but it's not the same standard, it's not the same level, and there's no question, you know. And
If you
Yeah.
do
you
the
can't,
yeah, if you
you
do
know,
the
it's
best run
skateboarding.
that if you do the best run that anyone's ever seen, and you did it in 40 seconds, the next 5 seconds is just going to be people cheering, and
Yeah,
just, you know, it's not going to be like, and no one's going to be like, oh, we had 5 seconds left. People are
Hmm.
people are high fiving already in the crowd. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You killed it.
Yeah,
And
like
I
you can say sometimes enough is enough, right? And
Yep.
yeah.
when you connect all the tricks that you planned into a perfect line, let's say it like this, you can stop. This is it. And if it beats everyone else, that's absolutely fine. We judging the skating. We
Yep.
not judging
Yeah.
the time missed.
Right.
And I think that's where it's a fine line, especially when you're judging not at that really high standard. Like we're talking, you know, to all judges right now. And if we're talking about, I know, you know, you're judging even not even a national comp, like a lower level, you know, localized competition, and you've got, you know, especially like at that intermediate level, and you've got skaters that are, you know, doing a lot of little tricks and little lip tricks, and they might get like, you know, so many tricks in one run. And I've seen it before where judges, you know, go, oh, they've done like 20 tricks though. So like, you know, they're getting a high score. And there's someone who's done like, you know, 5, but they're really gnarly tricks, and they had to really, you know, pump to get to that trick, or, you know, they've really, you know, put themselves out there. And that's that trade-off of, you know, someone saying, well, they've only done 5 tricks, but being a skater and having that common sense is, you know, how hard they were or how complex they were, as opposed to someone just doing, you know, their little half pipe run of, you know, a little back D here and a little 50 here and
Yeah.
a 5-0 here, and they've got like 50 grinds in their run. But yeah, I see that as well when I judge. And I think there's been a couple of comps where I've been head judge for, and I've had to sort of really reiterate that with the judges, is that we're not just looking for bulk, like you were saying before, bulk. We're not looking for quantity all the time. It's got to be, you know, quality over quantity.
Yep.
So, and I just think of the time frame as like a window of time for the skaters to showcase what they can do, and it has a flow and effect. If someone comes off halfway through their run, you're not deducting scores, but what does that do? It impacts the things we're judging on. It impacts their flow. It impacts their lines. It impacts all those things we are judging them on, the criteria. So it's not as simple as just saying, oh, yeah, the time doesn't matter. But we're not scoring according to the time. We're scoring for what we see, and obviously what we don't see, and we're not seeing that flow because it's been broken by a stack or something like that.
All
I
right.
think the time frame too allotted, say it's 45 seconds or you know 60. That's just a, you know, a good gauge for having the skaters get through the course. You know, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, realistically, you need 45 seconds to get through all of this stuff.
And sometimes, depending on the design of the park,
Right.
you need less because
Right. Sure.
the runs could be 30 seconds up to 1 minute at sanctioned events, or, you know, depending on the event and how they decide the duration for the rounds. But it's like you said, a time to utilize the terrain and get through it. That's the main part. And as judges, you judge what you see, and I think the message has been sent. Don't look at the times, don't deduct, don't think, don't overthink, and use it only as secondary when you compare performances of a similar kind. to make the distinction.
And can I just say, sorry to jump in, I don't know if we covered this already, but just like the importance of knowing the time frame though as well, because in the heat of the moment and the excitement, someone might go to throw a trick down and the buzzer's just gone off as they're going up the transition and it doesn't count, but to the crowd it's like everyone's cheering, it's ecstatic, they've finished on this epic trick, and in your head you go, no, that doesn't actually count because it was right after the time. And so when the score comes out, everyone's like, what? But they did that, and so it's really, I've said when I'm head judge for some comps back here for the national ones, I say, to the commentators, can you make sure that you're reiterating when tricks are and aren't, haven't made it in the time frame, because I want the crowd to know, I want the skaters to know that trick was in, that trick was not in. And it also, if they announce it, all the judges are on the same page. But as a judge, it's really important to keep an eye on that timer in terms of what tricks make the cut.
Yeah, you can't be moved by the crowd reaction, and
sometimes it's very close. Like we got to, don't be afraid to ask as a judge. Like you're saying, if you miss a trick, speak up, but don't be afraid to say, was that trick, was that in time or not? So making sure you communicate in that regard, that everyone's on the same page with that trick count or that trick didn't.
Yeah, like you said, Shari, the time frame, the window that is provided to all athletes is equal to all athletes. So that's the fairness of opportunity to showcase their talents. So it is very important, like you said, to know and distinguish what was in and what was after time for the judging evaluation. But when it comes to bails, it's like we said. So for all of you viewers, I hope you learn how to look at this topic from the right angle from our experts here at the episode 3 of our fundamentals of skateboard judging. And now let's move to the next topic.